All right, here we are in our little feature match area. Reed Duke up against Caleb Durwood, two phenomenal Magic players. And looking at the hands here, I think we saw a mulligan right away from Reed there with a no-lander and a bit of a land-heavy hand for Caleb here. What do you make of these, Jim?
Yeah, both hands aren't great. Obviously, Wall of
Uh,
Roots is nice to have early. Should be able to block an early Prowess creature or two, which is great because that early damage is very important for Reed. But aside from that, a Bowmasters, yeah, it's fine as a preordain or a card draw here or there
mhm.
but not going to kill any creatures directly. And then Reed's hand, it's Soul Scar Mage all in basically. No other creatures here, just a bunch of cantrips. Reed's hand could be anything. It could even be a bow.
Yeah, it really could. Yeah, with a couple of baubles here, that's the question is, I was going to say, do you wait on the baubles or do you try to draw some cards? Looks
I
like
like
Reed's
Reed.
going to wait.
Yeah, I like where you go for the damage here. You want to get your shots in. You're playing the Lava Dart, Lightning Bolt deck. Just get those damage up. And there's not much that Caleb can do really to stop this creature on turn one. So fatal pushes, no things that can block it. So gonna get a few extra points of damage in here, and lacking a 2-drop or another 1-drop, but still in a decent spot.
Yep, absolutely. Get your damage in here while you can because the Soul Scar Mage is probably going to have a tough time getting through Wall of Roots. But you do get to redraw 3 cards here.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what Reed's hand looks like next turn, given how much cantrips are happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so can at least get 4 damage in here. I believe Reed bobbled himself. Be able to do some manipulating here. Basically, if you want to play Fiery Islet or Arid Mesa to shuffle away some cards.
Interesting to see if Reed's going to fire up the Metamorphosis not here either.
Yeah. What's the reason that you wouldn't? I would think it would be kind of automatically, but
That's true. That's true, I guess. Yeah, I guess like he's doing nothing to cast that present, but just casting spells here.
I think you're right. Doesn't look like he's firing it off.
Wow. All right.
And I mean, so here's the one thing that is an interesting wrinkle here. And I play plenty of bobble decks and plenty of decks that's trying to draw some cards. And the bane of your existence is Orcish Bowmaster.
Hmm.
So, like, timing your baubles and your metamorphoses where you draw them before Bowmaster hits the field is what I'm always trying to do. Because now you're in this really awkward spot here. Do you want to just draw a bunch of cards next turn? Kind of forced to use removal spells on Bowmasters, and it just gets to be a little awkward.
Yeah, Reed gets a little extra filtering here with the extra fetch and the extra drop the bobble, but like you said, exposed to Bowmaster now. And once Caleb says go here, I mean, there's not really much else it can be. So Reed's have to
Yeah.
figure out how to navigate it.
So it looks like the reason we didn't go for anything else here is Reed didn't want to play Fiery Islet to start taking a lot of damage and left a Lightning Bolt on top, which spot removal is just good against Yawgmoth. If you can deal with all their creatures and cut the legs off from under them before they have their big Yawg turn, that's usually a pretty good recipe for success.
Yeah, it is an answer to Bowmaster. It's not a great one. Obviously, it'll still be a token
Yeah.
there, and it's not really that effective, but it is an answer. So if necessary, it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Always just feels brutal just playing against this card in general. No matter what, if you answer it with a 1-for-1 removal spell, you're automatically losing value. Just kind
Yeah.
of shows how phenomenal of a Magic card it is.
Yeah, it really is absolutely excellent. Even at the
Yeah,
floor, the floor is so high and the ceiling is just also unbelievably high.
exactly. Everyone thought the One Ring was going to just be by far the best card from the Lord of the Rings set. And yeah, Bowmaster turns out pretty good.
Yeah, oh, it's good. It's also good against the One Ring too. So it's got
Yeah.
everything covered.
All
Lord of
right.
the Rings, no. Lord of the Orcish Bowmasters. It's
Lord
new
of the
book.
Bowmasters. Absolutely. So we're seeing 1 damage on the Soulscar Mage, and then the Bobble trigger would finish it off. So Reed pretty priced in to this bolt, but just thinking out his options here.
Bolts galore.
Uh,
Yeah, it's interesting. The chord of calling that Caleb drew is pretty important. Obviously, kind of makes that wall roots into an actual threat as far as getting some big. Is Caleb going to keep this 1/1 around? Is he going to want to chump block? It'd be interesting to kind of see like how many creatures does he want in play and how much damage he's willing to take.
yep, agreed. So you played this at the PT, right? Like, and from what I remember, you weren't necessarily super in love with it.
Yeah, I think the deck is very, very good, but didn't line up very well at that particular Pro Tour. We just had
Yeah.
like either even or unfavorable matchups for the top like 5 played decks. But the deck is just really,
Sure.
really good. It's really fun to play. There's a lot of action to it also. So if you play it a lot of
Mhm.
different lines, a lot of tutors, and it's a deck that rewards knowing your deck really well.
That definitely rewards mastery. And I mean, I think the metagame has changed quite a bit too. And getting Agatha's Soul Cauldron down, like, I mean, I do think the deck has even gotten better.
Yeah, I wish I can give you analysis on the Soul Cauldron, but again, I'm not sure how exactly it affects the deck, hence why I didn't play it. But the card's really, really powerful and seeing play everywhere, so I'm sure it's a
Yeah.
pretty big upgrade.
I mean, it seems unbelievable. Even for like sideboard cards, like I've seen so many situations up against big mana decks where you just cauldron away like fulminator mages, and then you just turn everything into a fulminator mage. Haywire Might against Hammer, just blowing up everything with that. And then just the pure obvious thing of, well, if Yogg's in the graveyard, just turning this orc army into a Yawgmoth and comboing off of the spot. It seems incredible to me. But yeah, I don't play a ton of Yawgmoth either.
Yeah, it's funny because as if Bowmasters wasn't good enough, the token
Yeah.
has the counter on it preemptively for the Soul Cauldron, which is even insane synergy there too. So
Oh yeah, it counts that, isn't it? It's an amass counter.
yep.
It's not just a 1/1. Yeah, that's gross. All right, so Reed just picking up another land here. Gonna have to fire off Expressive Iteration to find some action here. And I mean, that's kind of the prowess deck. You know, it's a very fast, aggressive deck, but you can easily run out of things to do pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's why iteration is just so important in this deck. It's the reason to
Yeah.
play blue. Having this card that's cheap and provides velocity, but also card advantage can really help you get back into a game where you are, sputtering a little bit, starting to flow a little bit. Really important piece.
Yeah. Any reason to fire up this Bowmaster now in response to Expressive?
I'm
It
not
doesn't
sure.
trigger off that, right?
Yeah, it does not. I mean, maybe looking for a chord here. I mean, chord for one doesn't seem particularly impressive. Oh, she can't chord. I'm sorry, two black creatures. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and use Wall of Roots to cast the Bowmaster. But I guess if you just find certain card draw spells, that way, no matter what, Caleb just has the Bowmaster down so that you're not, you don't have to react to an instant speed draw spell if that were to come up. Pretty
Sure.
unlikely, but
Pretty gassy EI here, though.
that is a gassy EI. So another EI, Swift Spear, and Sprite Dragon. And Reed hasn't made a land drop yet. So can easily just go land, Sprite Dragon, hold EI for next turn.
Yeah, it's funny. So this Bowmaster play has really played poorly against the possible Sprite Dragon, where Sprite Dragon would have probably been played and gotten picked off.
Oh,
But now
yeah.
it's got free reign. And then if it can't be killed, next turn the EI goes off, bunch of spells goes off, and things get really, really big.
Yeah. I wonder. So there's only two of these in Reed's deck. I wonder, like, if you even can keep that card in against Bowmaster, like,
It's tough. There's
it's
definitely
so
a
brutal.
There's a somewhat of a soft ban in effect for one toughness creatures in the format because of Bowmaster and other things, Ren and Six and Yawgmoth and so on, but Bowmaster being the big one. Sprite Dragon, I mean, you can kind of work around it. You can try and leave a bolt up so they go to kill it. You can pump it in
Yeah.
response. There are workarounds for sure, but definitely that turn two Sprite Dragon not always looking so good.
Yeah. RIP Ragavan. It's not fair. That card just. It needed some help, It was it's really in a bad spot right now, and it's just not fair to that poor Ragavan. What did that monkey ever do to anyone?
And just never got a chance to sign, poor Ragavan.
God, agreed. My Ragavans were pretty good against you, but too bad I couldn't follow him up too far. But
Yeah, in game one, you actually exiled all my glimpses with the Ragavans.
did I? I thought I only
Yeah.
got two.
I went on my hand also. So it was just like extract as well as being a Ragavan. So it was pretty sick.
Yeah, and the other one, turn two Fury and turn two Teferi. I'm like, well, sorry, Jim, you're in trouble here, but that was a nice game to win. That was impressive.
I'm surprised I got out of that one. But we got a big chord coming here. And Yawgmoth or Shoulder both looking pretty good. Not a lot of answers to Shoulder in this prowess deck aside from just doubling up on spells.
Yeah, I see one Unholy Heat, but Delirium's not even the easiest to get. Otherwise, just double spell. But God, it's hard to believe that you don't take Yogg here, but Yawgmoth just does seem a lot worse against a hyper aggressive deck. You got to use your life total as a resource here, but being able to pick away Sprite Dragon here seems really.
Yeah, I think at 10 life and with the ability to kill a Sprite Dragon and then also have a blocker for the Soul Scar Mage, it feels pretty safe. If that dragon was a 2/2 or a 3/3, maybe a little more dicey. You can't afford to take that many Yawgmoth hits, but pretty good board now for Caleb.
Okay, here comes a spicy little Bowmaster attack. That's
Getting frisky.
interesting. Yeah. This just screams to me that Caleb's not messing around and is just going to go sack both creatures and deal with Soulscar Mage. Well, Reed is tapped out, maybe?
Yeah, I agree. That makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, if you read, you can't really block here, I don't think, because you see you block sack. I guess
Well, I guess you block. If you block, you sack Wall of Roots and give it the counter, so it's only you only lose
yeah.
one of the creatures. But
Yeah. All
yeah, that attack still seems slightly aggressive. But
right. More than slightly, honestly. Attacking your 1/1 into their 1/2 and you're playing against the Prowess burn deck is bold, but worked
Jim,
out.
I was using the commentator lingo here when that was an interesting play, or I'm not sure if I would have done that. That is
And
definitely what I meant as well.
I
That
had the
was
sugar
aggressive.
lingo of like, whoa, let's do this, Leroy. Getting in.
Yeah, you got to hit us with one of those Leroy Jenkins sound bites at some point,
Oh, I will.
Okay, good. All right, expressive iteration for Reed. See what we find here. I bet Reed's hoping for 3 bolts.
Yeah. It does seem like, if Caleb gets to untap here, between the Young Wolf, a bunch of mana, it's going to look pretty good for Caleb.
Yeah, this looks like a situation where it's pretty impossible to see Reed getting out of it. But on the flip side, the game is not won with 1 Young Wolf in hand. If there was Blood Artist, 2 Young Wolves, that's kind of the perpetual loop where it's for sure over. But as it stands now, with only 9 life to play with, you can't go crazy with Yawgmoth.
Yeah, I mean, if this Soul Scar can get up to 4 power and get a solid attack in, I'm sorry, it's a human.
Yeah.
Pro-humans. Never mind. Forgot the little flavor text there on Yawgmoth as pro-humans. So Soul Scar Mage, unfortunately, is a human.
Oh, man.
No attacks
Brutal.
here. On the bolt, too, but also Bowmash is going off here. Also makes a token as well.
Oh,
Yeah, looking
brutal.
rough for Reed here.
Brutal. And what? You can Lightning Bolt. I mean, you can Lightning Bolt Yogg. There is a Soulscar Mage in play, so you can kind of do that little trick of shrinking a creature, but that just doesn't do anything here.
Yeah, I think not being able to remove it this turn is a real issue. So no real attacks. Caleb's still at 9. There's a bunch of life to work with, And the big thing about the Yawgmoth deck is like you don't need to combo. I would say that when I was playing the deck in the Pro Tour or whatever, I probably comboed in like 10% of my games. Against the linear decks you want to, but when you're just playing a fair game, you just like draw 5 cards and play a bunch of creatures and kill a bunch of stuff. And it just, that's all you really need to do in a game of Magic, as long as your opponent's not, oogling you or whatever.
Yeah, some deck that's going way over the top of you. If you play any kind of value deck and you just draw 5 and kill 2 of their creatures, they're dead. But that Court of Calling probably also says you're dead.
Yeah, Court of Calling can be shouldered just to gain a bunch of life and keep off the Yawgmoth. It could be a second Wolf if Caleb wants to kind of risk it, although there's a risk of ruin there where you can loop the Wolves until you run out of life. But if you miss, and there's that bolt in hand as well. So
what about Blood Artist?
To see shielded. Blood Artist, let's see here. So that would be able to loop. There's no looping, it's just a few triggers and gain people. I think shoulder just seems better.
Shield is probably just better. Hard to argue with old Shelly here.
Yeah, and kind of funny how shoulder just feels like this mid-range card, but in the Yawgmoth deck, it's not exactly a combo piece, but able to do the thing, how to loop and keep you going. But Blood Artist is good enough too.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, Blood Artist, every creature you sack, giving the Young Wolf, taking that counter away, then sacking the Young Wolf, you're bound to find one of the other 4 Undying creatures, and then it's just straight game right away.
For sure. And then you also have the ability where you're just using less mana on it. So you have more ability to cast things you draw. So any mana dork you draw, whatever it might be, just kind of keeps you going.
Yep, makes sense. All right, heading to sideboard here. Looks like Reed is taking out those potential cards are the ones to take out, and they all have a common theme. They're kind of bad against Bowmaster.
Control F, draw a card, delete.
Yes. And from the Yawgmoth side, since you have some experience with that, what do you do against these kind of hyper-aggressive Prowess style? Maybe Burn was something you were more expecting than Prowess at the Pro Tour, but I'm sure you had a plan for that style of deck, right?
Yeah, you want a few kill spells for sure. And your goal is kind of just, you're not trying to really combo at all. I think you kind of just try and get your stuff in play, go find a Shieldred, kill some things, kind of just play this kind of mid-range game. Although here we see the Blood Artist is still in and Shoulder's going out. So maybe Caleb's a lot smarter than I am, which I think is very, very likely. But that's how I was doing it. But yeah, it looks like we're going to keep the combo in here, keep the Strangleroot Geist in, keep the Blood Artist. Perhaps the Cauldron changes that as well, though. Maybe the combo's more consistent, so you can do Cauldron there. But But yeah, I'm very, very surprised to see the Shield Druid hit the sideboard here.
Yeah, no kidding. Caleb's like, I'll play this my way, Jim.
Yeah.
Have no fear.
And then there really aren't that many ways for Reed to kill the Shielder, right? Yeah, like an Unholy Heat or two, maybe a double up, a 2 Lightning Bolts or something like that. But overall, it's, pretty hard to say. I guess with Soul Scar Mage, you can kind of like team up a little bit too. But
yeah, there's no way I'm taking out Shieldred, I don't think. I mean, two burn spells, losing to that is brutal, and if that happens, the game's almost assuredly over on the spot. If you go Shieldred on turn 4 with all your mana and Reed untaps, double bolts it and attacks through for some damage, you're probably in a lot of trouble. But, with it being a one of, most of the time it's in response to something or end step, you quarter calling for it, and then it just takes over the game.
for sure. For me, like that's your combo plan. It's just get Shoulder and play safely. That's your combo. It's funny because I do love seeing the Haywire Mites here. It's just like a 1/1, you play it, it blocks, gains a few life. That's what I would think you'd want to be doing. Kind of like just play with early creatures, don't take too much damage. Get yourself into a point in the mid game where your Yawgmoth can do things. If you play the Yawgmoth and you're at 4, there's not much to do with it, unfortunately. So make sure you can get there, gain a few life points, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, and because other than that, the Haywire Mite doesn't really have a target, right? It's just Bobble or Blood Moons in the board. So, yeah, not ideal except blocking, gaining 2.
I guess Underworld Breach potentially, but for the most part, it's just 1 drop. You can convoke with it or block with it. And there you go.
Okay, so starting with Reed's hand here, we got a 1-lander, but it's a spicy one. This is a really nice hand. This is a lot more what Reed's trying to be doing. Assemble a creature and then start casting your spells. You really do function on a low land count a lot more than other decks. So, as long as you avoid the train wreck scenario of drawing a non-land, then preordain surveilling a non-land, and then seeing 2 non-lands, you're probably okay.
Yeah, for sure. Much better hand. Kind of funny is to see like the song and dance of Bowmasters here, where Caleb actually took 2 of them out, and then Reed still has this White Dragons in. So a real nice like song and dance here of like who's going to do what.
Yeah, that is really interesting to me because I would think that card would be better than Haywire Mite. Personally, like, I get the gaining life thing, but I just don't know if that's the game plan you want to be playing. Chump blocking a big prowess creature and, just gaining 2 life against a Lava Dart deck. I'm getting all my X1s out of the deck.
I think the cheapness is the thing, although I am surprised there's some of that, but then also the combo stuff saying, and also like, if you're scared of Lava Dart, having a Blood Artist in your deck is a little scary too. So we'll see how it all plays out.
I'm just always afraid of Lava Dart. Always good against every deck I like to play in Modern.
Me also, it's a beating. Yeah. And when just sitting there in the graveyard and you're like, oh, man, how am I going to get them to use this thing so I can do what I want to do?
Well, I mean, especially you playing all those goblins, man. Poor Lava Darting those goblins isn't no good, huh?
I don't want to know my career stats on goblins killed by Lava Dart. I'm sure it's very high.
Fair enough. So Orcish Bowmaster has been wronging your deck of choice as well, huh?
Yeah. Yep. Hard to avoid.
Yep. All right. So getting back into the game here, we see Caleb draw a card, draws a Go for the Throat, get to play a land. So has the option of either playing an Agatha's Cauldron, which seems pretty poor right now, or just Delighted Halfling plus Catacombs, probably put a tap land into play. Not great options.
Yeah, interesting to see the draw is Go for the Throat, right? So Caleb could have played Halfling on turn 1, chose to play Wolf instead. So definitely interesting here, valuing the blocker over the mana. And then of course that held Reed back. The Channeler couldn't really get to Delirium, so that couldn't really attack either. So a little bit of an interesting standoff here with the Wolf and the Channeler kind of just chilling, just hanging out.
Yeah, and I mean, Reed could have went for something like fire a lightning bolt at your face, try to surveil, a different type into your yard to get in there. But Reed doesn't catch me as the, I'll just bolt you in the face and hope something's on top type player,
I've played a lot with Reed in the last year, and absolutely, Reed is definitely a conservative player who wants to kind of minimize variance at every single point of the game.
Exactly, and that's going to get rewarded here because this bolt is going to take down this Delighted Halfling, which is not going to be too delighted about it.
Yep, sorry, Hobbit.
And Lava Dart to the yard surveilled. Value.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Hey, that's actually pretty big. Just in the sense where if you play Sprite Dragon right now, you always have the ability to Lava Dart in case there's a Bowmaster or something like that. Probably something we're not going to see this turn since you really want to put an equity on getting some lands, but something to keep in mind for future turns.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for Reed this turn. Like you're saying, just playing Sprite Dragon is reasonable, but I definitely want to develop a little bit. But if you want to develop, is it preordain? Is it iteration? If you preordain, you can play the Soul Scar Mage. If you iteration and miss, it's pretty bad. Like get a Surveil too. So a lot of different moving parts here for Reed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, the games when I lose with these Izzet decks is usually the expressive iteration brick turns.
Yeah.
But with Dragon Rage Channeler, it helps out a little bit. You're technically looking at the top 4 to try to find a land, but it's not an easy task. So looking at our special view here, we do see the mountain is there and Mythic Needle.
That's pretty good. So the What of Needles here.
Good.
And of course, Needle can name usually Yawgmoth, but could name Soul Cauldron also if it ends up being an issue. But Soul Scar Mage ready to come down here too. And Delirium. So great turn for Reed. And getting ready to get on the board here.
So out of these two players, Jim, since you absolutely thrashed me and anyone who didn't see it, please don't go back and watch it, especially if you have children in the room. It was very graphic beating. Who would you rather play out of these two to try to advance to the top 8?
Probably Caleb.
Okay.
I would think that the super fast 1-drop deck against my all spells mana cost 3 or more deck would be a little rough. And Reed's got Spell Pierces too. So combination of a really fast clock and some Spell Pierces seems tough. Although honestly, the other side doesn't seem super great either. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
A good mana creature draw from Caleb could be tough too. And they're both also insanely good Magic players as well. So, I'll take whatever comes. We'll see what happens.
That's kind of how I feel. I'm like, well, both decks seem pretty bad for me, so I think I'm in trouble either way. And I thought the best matchup I had was going to be against you, but that didn't go well. All right, so we see Sprite Dragon getting busy here, coming in with Soul Scar Mage, and no blocks is declared. Let's see if Reed wants to go in for any damage. We know he doesn't. He wants to chill, play another Soul Scar Mage, and next turn seems to be that turn that he's going to pop off.
Oh, yeah. Lava darts everywhere, mountains flying everywhere, preordains. There's going to be a lot of prowess triggers next turn, and Calebus and land drops here is in a world of hurt.
So here is this Orcish Bowmaster, and normally this would be amazing. Take out the Sprite Dragon, have a couple blockers, cool, be on your way. But flipping over that Lava Dart from the Surveil early in this game is going to be huge. Not only do you get to kill the Bowmaster, but you get to put a counter on Sprite Dragon. You will lose a land in the sacrifice, which is a little brutal, but who cares,
Yeah, great exchange. It's so powerful when a card like Soul Skirmish, Dragon Rage Channeler, you just bin a card that has value like that. It's like casting Entomb, it's just for free, which is really, really incredible. And you completely change the texture of the game. If that dart wasn't there, the dragon would probably be dead. There'd be 2 blockers in play, and Caleb might have time to kind of drag out of this.
Exactly. Still wouldn't be looking good for Caleb. The 2-lander here has definitely not treated him too well. But a draw that has treated Reed pretty well is this Bauble. This Bauble is not only just a card that's going to replace itself, it's also just a lightning bolt in itself with the 3 prowess triggers.
Yeah, a lot of spells stacking up here, and this is going to be a pretty brutal turn.
And I think we both know from our time with testing with Reed Duke, the amount of times that he likes to play cantrip are very low. Reed is definitely the more high impact spells type player rather than having cantrips, So for him to even be playing this deck as well was pretty shocking to me. But kind of anything happens on the Super League.
Maybe we're seeing a new Reed. Maybe we're going to go to the next Pro Tour testing house. He's going to be like, guys, mono red?
Mono red.
Play some Reckless Impulses, maybe?
I remember Mythic Championship 1 when we were testing together. Like Huey was on mono blue, the tempo deck from the very beginning, and Reed didn't want to play it, wasn't his style. And Huey was just basically like, you must play this deck. It's absolutely broken. And went on to play it in top 4 that Pro Tour.
Kicking and screaming all the way, of course.
Exactly, yeah. So we see the block on the Yawgmoth here in front, just deciding to take 6 damage. Now, was that lethal with 3 lightning bolt or lava darts? Down to 4 plus...
With the mana up, like I said, Reed's fairly conservative. So, like, if it was a go for the throat or something else, Reed's pretty far ahead here. Doesn't need to risk anything. Keep the darts up if things go wrong in some strange way. Might have been, but still looking really, really good for Reed here.
So, looks like Walking Ballista was put into the graveyard. Just cord for 0, didn't get
Ooh.
Riot Arbiter, just puts that into the yard so you can do some Soul Cauldron shenanigans.
Yeah,
Now, how does Walking Ballista and Soul Cauldron work? Because I know it works quite favorably, but I don't know exactly if it's like, it's not just a combo with one Undying creature, right?
Corey, I told you I didn't want to do Soul Cauldron stuff, all right? I didn't come
Hey,
here that no, but I think it's really, really good. It just turns all of your counter creatures into mod fanatics, so you can just be popping the counters off and doing that. So seems very, very powerful, but just not quite enough here, unfortunately.
Jimothy, you also said I want to be the expert role here, so I'm firing all these expert Soul Cauldron questions at you nonstop, buddy.
I will try my best.
All right, so from Caleb, looks like we initially saw a Haywire might being taken out for an Orcish Bowmaster. That makes sense. They do get better on the play. And here we go, game number 3 between these two all-stars to see who has the great honor of being able to glimpse into tomorrow against you in the next round.
Yeah, play draw is pretty huge here. But the prowess deck in particular, kind of like burn, you really want to be out on that front foot. If you're able to have like triple 1-drop draw on the play, it's just so powerful. But we're gonna see how it rolls. And of course, the Mana Dork deck, kind of similar, right? Want to have that Mana Dork on turn 1 of the play. So we'll see.
So how about Reed's hand? Let's start with that because Caleb looks like he has kept, but Reed has a bit of a sketchy one. Do you keep that or do you just send it back?
I don't think you can.
I don't think you keep
You
it
can't
either.
afford to miss that land drop. You really got to develop. You don't want to draw too many lands, but you got to be able to develop your board.
Oh, vomit on this hand too. Underworld Breach is the card that you want 22 cards deep and not a second sooner in this
Yeah.
deck. And now you're priced in to keep this. You have a couple prowess creatures. You're just like, my kingdom for 4 Metamorphoses on top of my deck, and let's start cooking up something.
Yeah, I think that like the good news for Reed is that like this hand is super set up. Almost any spell in the deck is a good draw here.
Yeah.
There's so many cantrips and so much redundancy. I mean, we're gonna see that triple 1-drop hand, and then we just see a preordain into a Manamorphose into an iteration. All of a sudden, everything's a 4/5 or whatever.
True,
So
true.
a lot of potential here. Not quite a made hand yet, though.
Exactly. It's a lot better to have the prowess creatures to start rather than having the pieces to go with it and then having to top deck prowess creatures.
Yeah, it's night and day. Turn one Soul Scar versus turn one Preordain is literally night and day. You breathe a sigh of relief on the Preordain, they play the prowess creature, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, when your opponent goes 1-drop on turn 1 and then 3 1-drops on turn 2, you also panic a little bit. Wow, 1-drop fest here.
Yeah, the good news for Reed is that there's not much behind this. It's a couple 1/1s. The Soul Scar should be able to battle through sizing wise. And then there's no Quarter Calling, there's no Yawgmoth, there's no like big finish. But again, similar to Reed's hand, very, very good setup. Now waiting to make it into a made hand.
Yeah, so now, I mean, Caleb just has, what, 8 draws at winning the game on the spot?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So what play a land, cord for 4, get the Yawgmoth, and you have both wolves in play, and wolf got a cord for 4. I don't know if you can actually get the Blood Artist. I don't know if it's enough to cord for it as well, but still,
Sure.
obviously, a really, really good spot.
Speaking of wolf, look at the wolf that is Reed Duke here, attacking in with the 1/2 with no spells to play. Two
Love it.
young wolves could have just blocked and taken that Soul Scour mage down, but Reed's all about getting every little bit of value here. That was a bluff.
Yeah, it's
Love
stone
it.
bluff.
Love it. Oh,
That's the thing too, is like obviously we're commentating right now, we can see the hands, but both players must be sweating bullets right now because the starts are so good. If those
Yeah.
last 2 or 3 cards are good, you're dead. But we
Yes.
know that both players have a little bit of air going on. So fun to watch.
Okay, here's a DRC off the top. And now DRC and Underworld Breach plus Baubles is quite the combo in this deck. If you can ever assemble that, let's say you have 2 DRCs, a Breach in play, and a Bauble in the yard, you're essentially only escaping 1. So you really get to rack up your prowess triggers. Some kind of the tricks we've seen with this kind of other fair decks like Fair Jeskai Breach. Even, Murktide decks when they were playing a couple Underworld Breaches. It's an incredibly powerful thing, but you definitely need some more action than Reed has right now.
I can't wait to see this turn. So Reed sold the bluff last turn, told the story. And very, very
Yeah.
important when it comes to bluffing, in Magic and poker, is that whenever you bluff, you're starting to tell a story. Your story
Yeah.
has to be consistent as time goes on, or the player can kind of sniff it out. So is Reed going to keep it up here? And maybe play Channeler first and say, I want to play Channeler before I play my spell, and then attack. Is it going to be no attacks? We could see a Breach just like fish for triggers, with no real value. A lot of options here, but Reed showed some gusto last turn. Will the gusto continue?
It's a Giganta. Just kidding.
No gusto. Okay.
Honestly, though, I like it, though. It's reasonable because the worst possible block for you is like Yawgmoth plus. All right, GG. Jim,
Okay.
you're going to be playing against Caleb Durwood in the next round. It's Yawg time.
I believe there's enough mana now where getting Blood Art should be no problem at all, because obviously the cord costs 7, the Yawgmoth itself just costs 4. So this should be all she wrote here.
Woo! All right, now we're just going through the motions. Not too much that can be done here, but it is not, factually GG quite yet. There is still some pieces you have to find, but it's not much. These young wolves are going to go back and forth, putting an Undying counter on, taking it off, drawing a card in the process and losing 1 life. As long as you can find Cord, Blood Artist, anything like that, it is all wrapped up.
Yeah, we got, 15-ish looks, and that's a lot. That's a pretty good amount of looks. Also, the Haywire Might, a few points of life there as well, so a few more looks. So basically, Ancestral Recall here with the Haywire Might.
And I mean, oh yeah, I was gonna say you can like Agatha's Cauldron to exile Haywire Might from the yard, but it only copies the ability, not the gain life aspect.
Correct. Yeah. So, but still, tons of any Quarter Calling, the Blood Artist itself, the Shoulder itself, if it's still in. I don't know if the Shoulder's still in or not.
I think it was taken out, which is surprising to me. Still, you'll have to ask Caleb here when I'm playing Reduke after your guys' match.
So not quite there yet, going to 13.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a bit of fear of ruin where, like, once you get down to like, 6 or 5, so I haven't found it yet. Like, do you keep going? Your board's pretty good. Is it, there's a lot of cards in Reed's hand. You just got to go all the way, probably. It's scary.
I think you go all the way in this situation, all as low as you possibly can get, because obviously Reed's been not showing that much strength, right now, but still you let him untap with 3 prowess creatures. There's definitely a chance that he could kind of take you out, but I don't know. We'll see what Caleb decides.
It's tough because, like, if Caleb stops right now, the board is almost insurmountable. There's just a bajillion blockers. All of Reed's creatures are on the ground. 11 life plus the 2 from the Might is enough to survive any barrage of burn spells. And, like, again, it's a risk of ruin scenario. Caleb doesn't really need to go all the way for it here. If he says, stop right now, he's got to be 98% to win, whereas there's a chance where if you keep going and miss, you could maybe lose. But, what tiny percentage point is a little bit better than the others, the question.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I feel like he's already, there it is. Okay, he was already pretty close to 90% to win. But this Court of Calling will lock it up for the Blood Artist here to be able to advance.
Yeah.
Play you.
So get that Blood Artist in there. And it's interesting because I was saying that, normally when I'm playing a matchup like this, I'm boarding out the combo. This Blood Artist is so vulnerable to Lava Dart. It's not very good as a card by itself. And I think you can just win the fair game also. It kind of just gets shouldered. But Caleb's a master. What can I say?